High in the Andes mountains, a secret slumbered. Towering peaks clawed at the sky. They guarded a hidden valley below. The valley was a place untouched by time. A ribbon of silver, a stream snaked through the valley floor. It nourished a small village. The village was an island in a sea of green. It was a place of peace, a place of silence. The people of the valley were a unique tribe. They lived their lives in perpetual darkness. Generations ago, a terrible sickness had swept through the valley. It stole their sight. The villagers were left to adapt. They learned to navigate their world through sound and touch. Their world was small. It was all they knew. The villagers had long forgotten the sun's warmth. The sting of snow on their skin was a distant memory. They had built their world around their blindness. Their homes, their paths, their very lives were tailored to a world without light. They had a saying: "In the country of the blind, the one-eyed man is king." Little did they know a king was soon to arrive. Life in the valley was simple, ordered. The villagers farmed the land. They raised livestock. They wove intricate tapestries. Their days were filled with purpose. They had no concept of color, of light, of the vast world beyond their valley walls. Their blindness had become their reality. Their senses were keen. Their hearing was acute. They could detect the slightest change in the air, the rustle of leaves underfoot, the murmur of the stream. These were the sounds that painted their world. Their sense of touch was equally sharp. They could identify a person by the feel of their hand, a plant by the texture of its leaves. Their blindness had fostered a deep sense of community. They relied on each other, they supported each other, they trusted each other. Their world was built on cooperation, on shared experience, on an unspoken understanding that came from living in perpetual darkness. One day a stranger stumbled into their midst. His name was Núñez. He was an adventurer, a climber drawn to the challenge of the Andes. He had been scaling a treacherous peak, a misstep, a fall. He found himself tumbling into the unknown. He landed, bruised and battered, near the village outskirts. He was dazed, confused. He called out, expecting a response. Silence greeted him. He tried again, his voice echoing strangely in the stillness. He pushed himself to his feet. He stumbled forward. He was determined to find help. He walked for what felt like hours. The air grew warmer. The scent of unfamiliar flowers filled his nostrils. He heard a sound, a rhythmic thumping. He moved towards it. He emerged from the undergrowth. He stopped. He stared. Before him lay the village, unlike any he had ever seen. First encounters. The village was both familiar and strange. Familiar in its layout, with houses clustered around a central square and fields stretching out beyond, yet it was strange in its atmosphere. An eerie silence hung in the air. The villagers moved with an uncanny grace, their eyes vacant and unseeing. Núñez approached cautiously and called out. His voice seemed to startle the villagers. They turned towards him, their heads cocked and their expressions unreadable. A young woman stepped forward and reached out, her fingers brushing his arm. She let out a gasp. He tried to explain who he was and how he had come to be there, but his words were met with confusion and disbelief. They did not understand his language, but more than that, they did not understand his concept of sight or a world beyond their valley. He was an enigma, an anomaly. The gospel of sight. Núñez found himself a curiosity, an object of fascination and fear. The villagers poked and prodded him, running their hands over his face, trying to understand his difference. He, in turn, tried to understand them, their blindness, their way of life. He tried to explain sight to them, to describe the sun, the stars, the colors of the world. They listened politely, but their blank stares told him they understood nothing. How could they? Sight was not a concept they could grasp. It was beyond their experience, beyond their comprehension.